All right. Get this microphone problem situated here. Can you guys hear me? Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Wow, it is really sensitive. I can see it here. All right, I am getting, looks like I'm getting an audio display now, so I think you guys should be able to hear me. Let me know. I'm not going to do anything until you guys confirm that you can hear me. I'm not. Okay, there you go. We got confirmation. We got it. I was going to hit you guys with a little Fred Durst. You remember Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit? Yeah. Yeah. 1, 2. 3, 2, 1. Yo. Oh, wait. No, hold on. We got to put the shades. We got the shades on the forehead because I left them there. Oh, God. What a crazy day. I was kind of not expecting to go live today, but I could not resist the chance to talk about Texas and Oklahoma and all the rumors, because there's a lot. I mean, it's confirmed. Oklahoma, Texas, they're curious. They're how would you put that? They're conference curious. They're a little curious about if they want to join a man's conference. Especially in baseball, women's sports, and of course football. Basketball's on the up and up. I can't smoke this in here, but I can at least. Oh yeah. I'm gonna cut it here. I may not be able to smoke it, but I can cut it. Make a mess. Oh yeah. Oh, clean cut. Look at that. All right. Wish I could smoke it. Okay. Let's knock out well, again, there's all sorts of stuff going on. Not a ton of recruiting news right now. But what I do have jotted down here, first we're going to talk about Treylon Smith. Got a bug in here. Treylon Smith was named to the Doak Walker Award watch list. We know that there was some other, Treylon Burks, who I mentioned in the description of this video. He was also nominated to an awards list. So let's knock out Treylon. Treylon was the most recent. But he's on that Doak Walker watch list. I don't know the amount of running backs that make that list. I thought it was like 30. He had 710 yards last year on the ground on 134 carries, 5.3 yards per carry, scored 5 total tutties. He scored 5 total tutties during 10 games. You got to remember, he had to combat for that position. You guys remember that? He had to fight it out to get there, to take over that job, because Rakeem Boyd was struggling a little bit. Never really came back to himself. Hang on just a second here. We're going to retweet. Do me a favor. If you guys follow me on Twitter, @TyHudson83, retweet the live show. I just tweeted about 7 minutes ago. Do me a favor. Like and retweet that. That would be fantastic. Fantastic. 1, 2. Yeah. All right. Also, he had 800, speaking of Treylon Smith, 869 all-purpose yards, good enough for second on the team. So the recipient of the 2021 Doak Walker Award will be announced live on the Home Depot College Football. I'm going to kill this bug flying around in here. There's always one little bastard floating around. Always just one. Just floating around, getting on my nerves. But I think that's announced in December, if I'm not mistaken. Earlier in the week, linebacker Grant Morgan and defensive back Jalen Catalon were named to the watch list for the Chuck Bednarik. I can never pronounce that. That's what I do here. You guys love to correct me on what especially Will. Is he in chat? he put like $15 into Super Chat one time, or maybe it was like $20 to correct me on Nico's last name. Davier, right? Not Davalier. It's French. God bless him. And wide receiver Treylon Burks was included on the watch list for the Maxwell Award. And that's a big one, too. Don't tell me you don't have the pieces this year to go bowling. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me you don't have the pieces, because you do. The biggest question mark is, of course, quarterback. So we got some super chats already, racking them up. I love you guys. Anthony White with the $4.99 super chat. I say if they come to the SEC, actually realign the conference as true East and West. I agree. I actually, on the Pig Trail Network Twitter, I actually have a list put up, and I'll get to that in a minute. Mr. T-Dub, my boy, he says, if they join, it would definitely call for SEC conference realignment, East-West. Realignment, East-West. I think this would actually level the field for us recruiting in Texas. Okay? We're going to talk. I mean, look, I've had like maybe an hour to kind of digest all this, because I never in my wildest dreams I expect Oklahoma and Texas to come knocking on the door. I mean, you on one side you do, because of the money. The money is there, and clearly the Big 12 must just be struggling. I'm shocked the Big 12 must be struggling financially. But then again, you talk about Texas and all the schools in that conference. Oklahoma's not a poverty program. But it's clear they want more money. I think that's probably what's causing all this. After 5 years in the SEC, I bet OU fans would be much less arrogant. Oh, I love that one. I love it. You must live in the River Valley or in Northwest Arkansas. I try telling people who are like, you know, I get friends that live down in South Arkansas, or they live over in the Delta, or they live in Northeast Arkansas, or down in Texarkana, and they say, and it's no disrespect, I get it, but they say, oh, we have this hatred for Texas, or we have this raw hatred for these other schools. You guys up in the NWA don't know what that's like. I'm here to tell you, brother, Oklahoma is more of a rival. We don't even play them than Mizzou could ever be. We hate Oklahoma in the River Valley and in Northwest Arkansas. There is a hatred. Now, you go like up towards Eureka Springs, or into Madison County, there's some Mizzou. You'll see Mizzou license plates here and there, or the decals on the back of the trucks. You'll get some Mizzou fans. You got a couple around here that you see from time to time. But Oklahoma, especially when they won the national title, I'll never forget that. I was in high school. Oklahoma tags everywhere. All of a sudden, Oklahoma fans came out. They're like, "Oh my God, the '90s are over. This is no longer the '90s. Bob Stoops has resurrected the program, and now we're ballsy enough. We're going to put the bump. Hey, more power to them, right?" I'd be lying if I said there were some years where I was just really down as a Razorback football fan. I'm not going to doubt. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. I'm not going to lie to you. But Oklahoma fans, after they won the Natty, right, and then the next year they played Arkansas in a bowl game, which was one of the most defensive bowl games I've ever seen Arkansas play in. But they're cocky. My dad will tell you a story how some of the worst fans he's ever run into were Oklahoma fans. Coming out of that game that year, as a matter of fact. Their fans believe their program walks on freaking water. They're not a poverty program. They're not. Oklahoma's a great football program. Tell me this. We're not even supposed to transition into this yet, and we're already there. Would they win like they do in the Big 12 in the SEC? The answer is obviously hell no. Hell no. They're not winning 10, 11, 12 games a year, 10, 11 games a year. They're not doing that here. They're not winning conference championship after conference championship. Now, having said that, is that the proper usage of that sentence? Would they recruit better? You better believe it. And I hate to admit that. I hate to say that. But you look what's south of them. What is south of Norman, Oklahoma? The largest recruiting bed of talent, a plethora of recruiting talent. This is why Oklahoma's in the situation they're in. These kids, they want to leave home. They want to cross the border. All they got to do is just go a couple hours north, and they're in Norman, and they get to play for a great football program like Oklahoma. They are a great football program. They are. There's no doubting that, especially in the 2000s. You can go further back to when, Barry Switzer, but they kind of struggled, right? They had their time where they were pretty bad too. They're going to recruit at a much higher level if they come to the SEC. Again, I think it would be an even bigger jump than what we saw from A&M. simply because Oklahoma is a program that seems to lead the way in offense. I mean, it's like every year they have quarterbacks, receivers, running backs that are All-American. They're winning, like I said, 10, 11 games a year. They're in the playoffs. Their recruiting would blow the hell up. Would it put Arkansas at a bigger disadvantage? Of course. And then you have Texas, right? Texas to jump into the SEC. Good God. Look, I don't understand how anybody thinks that that's a good thing. The SEC, if it were to expand, now I've always said it depends on who joins, right? You look at the SEC, you look at the SEC East, right? You look at who could join over there on the East. You have schools like Miami, Florida State, Clemson. In football, clearly that would give them a recruiting advantage. But then now they're up against, maybe it helps their foothold against teams like Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, and so on and so forth. But you're talking about adding to. I know Texas is not back. We're not back. They're not back. They haven't been back. They had a good year last year, I'll admit. I thought they were a little better than I thought. But, then again, they're always overrated. Oklahoma clearly is a playoff caliber team. If you don't think their recruiting would benefit from that, you're just crazy. And that's a disadvantage for Arkansas. Now, if you're talking about teams in the East joining, whatever. It doesn't really have an effect because we don't really recruit. Yeah, we've dipped into Georgia. We've dipped into Florida. We've dipped obviously into Tennessee, and a little bit as you get closer and closer, up here to the Midwest. Or I always call geographically, I feel like Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas is more Midwest than it is South. But I know there's some old heads who hate that. But as you get closer and closer to Arkansas, as you get closer and closer to Northwest Arkansas, the East is not a huge, it's not a recruiting hotbed. There's no pipelines really there. But you go west, you dip into Oklahoma, and you have snuck out some really good talent. And I won't even say snuck out. They have flat out beaten Oklahoma and Oklahoma State for some good talent. There's no doubt about that. Arkansas, it's weird. They're not a poverty program, but in terms of wins and losses, they are. And yet they're still walking in and they're grabbing guys like A.J. Green, who I can't tell y'all how excited I am to see him this year. I think he's going to be a big deal. And you keep – there's several names over the last 5 years that you could add to that list. You can go further back to Felix Jones out of Tulsa. Been some great players out of the state of Oklahoma. But all of a sudden now they're in the SEC. Does that change your ability to tap into Oklahoma? Does it change the ability to go into those hotbeds in Texas, in the Fort Worth area, Dallas-Fort Worth area? How badly does it affect your ability? And it's just two schools, right? They all have a certain amount of scholarships that they can offer. It's not like all of a sudden they have more scholarships. It's not like Oklahoma – okay, they go from top 8 recruiting, top 5 recruiting to top 3 recruiting, right? And the same thing could be said of Texas. But it simply, they're going to benefit. And they're going to benefit. And it can have a negative impact, especially when you talk about their area and their hotbeds of where they can recruit in the state of Texas. And it's not an advantage for Arkansas. Now, but it's also not like a huge blow. Don't take it that way either. It's not a huge blow. Let me read this super chat. Mr. T-Dub says, fact, news about this broke. Wait for it. As Jimbo took the stage, Texas trying to steal A&M Thunder, and Big 12 trying to take the spotlight from the SEC. By the way, since we're already on the subject, 2 schools have already vetoed their entry into the SEC. There's already been 2 vetoes. Kirk Bowles on Twitter, who's the Austin American Statesman sports columnist, and a co-host of Second Thought I don't know what that is. Second Thought podcast. I don't know if that's a sports related or not. But he says that I'm told Texas A&M and Missouri would be a hard no. So they haven't already. I guess he's saying they would be a hard no. Only 2 more needed to block an invitation for Texas and Oklahoma. See, I didn't know that. I wasn't aware. I kind of thought it was all up to Greg Sankey. Can he override the votes? I don't know. And then, boy, you're talking about some drama there, right, if that were to happen. If you ask me, Ty, are you for the addition of these schools? No, I am not. I'm not, because I think it's a disadvantage recruiting. There is, Arkansas, Oklahoma would be fun. It would be fun. The fans up here don't like each other, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, there've been. I know there were bar fights on Dixon between Oklahoma fans and Arkansas fans. I'm not perpetuating some bullshit. Like, this is real. They don't like each other, and they don't even play each other. And they come up for tournaments or they come up for baseball, and it's okay. Most of their fans are pretty cool. But when you talk about like their football fans, that is an entirely different world. They know they're good, and they're not afraid of being cocky about it. And I get it. Hog fans, are you kidding? We're horrible. Baseball. Like on Twitter, oh my God, they are intolerable. I'll be the first one to tell you. They're horrible. Some fans, a lot of fans, and yeah, the more fanatical ones are going to be they're going to be the loudest on social media. You can say that for any fan base. But I mean, did you see the way they reacted after being unanimously voted number one in the country? Which, by the way, Baum Stadium, Dave Van Horn, this roster, like baseball, Arkansas is clearly one of the top programs in the country. And they kind of earned that right. And they earned the right, too, to be disgusted by not making the College World Series, especially not losing a single series. By the way, you did lose to Oklahoma in baseball in your one and only game this year. And Oklahoma fans were pretty savage about it. They weren't as vocal because it's baseball. It's weird. Oklahoma is actually a pretty respectable baseball state, by the way. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma love their baseball. That's another question. How would Oklahoma fare in baseball in this conference? Same with Texas. Texas is a College World Series. I mean, they're picked to make College World Series every other year. Oklahoma is usually kind of on the outside looking in there. Oklahoma State has had some great years. If Oklahoma State, and I only say that, I kind of let it slip. I only say that because I do think also if Oklahoma and Texas join, if they don't get vetoed out, and if Greg Sankey doesn't take any action here other than to let them in, who else follows? I think more schools follow, and I think the SEC. That's those steps to making these super conferences that have been rumored for 15 years. We've seen this coming. This is nothing new. We knew this was coming. People act so surprised. I'm surprised it happened today. How far away are we from the regular season of football, the biggest sport in America, college football? How far away are we from that? And this comes out today. You've got SEC Media Days going on. By the way, Sam Pittman tomorrow, I think 10:30. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let me read chat. I haven't read chat. Let me scroll up here. Boomer Sooner of the 214 says, if my Sooners come to the SEC, we better be ready for recruiting because everyone is coming to Texas for talent. Yeah, you're already there and you're already dominating. I mean, Oklahoma does really well in the state of Texas, no doubt. They're going to have their first pick in the state of Oklahoma. It's odd that they still have success in Tulsa, but yet they have let other schools kind of slip in and take some of their better talent, Arkansas being one of them. Do you guys think I think more schools come. I do. That's why I let it slip. I think Oklahoma State comes or tries. That's the other side of this equation, right? Who else comes and who does the SEC take? Do they turn teams away? Because, I don't know, maybe they don't want to add, is there a cap? I don't know. I don't see why there would be. I mean, it is college athletics we're talking about after all. But it's weird that we only think about this too, from a football perspective. Teams, and by the way, fans do not view Arkansas as a football school. And I know we're like, well, we're a football. No, Arkansas is not a football school. They're not. They're a baseball school. You got to look at it from the eyes of how other fans view you. I've always believed you can't tag yourself as what kind of school you think you are. I've talked to fans, and definitely the perception is this is a baseball school. So I wonder the effect, and that is my opinion. I think they are a baseball school, but I think we talk about North Carolina and Kansas. What do you think of them first, right? You think of them as basketball first. Why? Because they've had success in those sports. Oklahoma State too, and I hate to I know we have some OU fans in the chat, but Oklahoma State has been a pretty even keel. I think wrestling's real big at Oklahoma State. They're really good at wrestling. That's like their oddball sport that they're really good at. For Arkansas, it's track. Did you guys see there's a double-digit amount? Now, I don't know how true this is. I didn't back this up, but my wife was showing me an article. There's something like double-digit amount of former Razorback track stars in the Olympics. Do you see that this year? That's crazy. A&M will vote no. Yeah, I think of the disadvantage that it puts a school like A&M, and they love being I talked about this not that long ago. If other schools that recruit the state of Texas like they do join the conference, A&M all of a sudden will start to drop. They will. Their recruiting will drop, especially if Oklahoma, Texas, you got to imagine, again, eventually these other schools are going to come knocking on the door. If they get vetoed, then they get vetoed. I don't know how that works. I thought Greg Sankey had final say. I knew that some schools might have some say in this, but I didn't realize they got to take a vote. So I think it takes 4 to stamp them out. And it sounds like Oklahoma and Texas may not be joining after all. But 75% of conference teams have to vote them in, says Tim. Okay. AJ Evans, I'm a Bama fan, and Bama, Texas, and OU, Georgia would be great, but Big 12 would be on life support. This would destroy the Big 12. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. This would destroy the Big 12. So then what do these other teams have to do? What are they going to – are they going to reform the Big 8? Do they try and knock on the door of the Pac? I wouldn't want to join the Pac. Ooh, Ty is live. I most certainly am. We got a super chat for Tinzo, Mr. T-Dub. From what I understand, Oklahoma, I'm going to have to take these off. This is getting hard to read. From what I understand, Oklahoma has a state law that both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State have to be in the same conference. They can change that, but that's how it is now. Also, 75% of the SEC schools must vote a new school in. Okay. Luke Griggs, if this means we drop the Sun Belt from our schedule, I'm all for it. Stop playing these BS games. I have mixed feelings on playing these non-cons. And I'll tell you why. Because one of my favorite things about college baseball and college basketball is the diversity of teams that compete and can go far, And we know that some of these non-P5 schools, like they make a good chunk of their income off these P5 games that they schedule. When they schedule someone like Arkansas, well, they're going to make $500,000, right? And that makes up a ginormous chunk of their. As I understand it, like you're playing UAPB, this is going to be a huge jolt to their athletic department. I mean, right? Shocker. I think it adds diversity into the sport, and I think more diversity is better. It's why I hate the 4-team playoff. It is garbage. I don't care what anybody says. 4-team playoff. Give me back BCS. 4-team playoff. It's such a dumb concept to me. I'm sorry. I'll say it. I will say it. It's stupid. We have 130 plus teams in this division of college football, and you're going to tell me we're going to narrow it down to 4 teams? How many teams are in the NFL, and how many teams participate in their playoffs? Well, it's not the same, Ty. But, I mean, tell me. I think there needs to be more diversity in the sports, and I know that's where they get a large chunk of their income, or of what they make in a year is playing these P5 schools when they get paid $500,000. Who was it? Someone not long ago was paid like $1 million, and they ended up winning. That wasn't Appalachian State over Michigan, although I remember that. Louisiana Monroe when they beat Arkansas, when Arkansas was top 10 in the country. God. Non-cons are fun. Crappy non-cons are not. I hear you. Imagine Oklahoma and Texas playing Alabama, Georgia, Florida every year. Bet they'd find a way around that. So, let me tell you my conference realignment. How I would probably put this. Again, do me a favor. At Ty Hudson 83 on Twitter. Go retweet. Go like and retweet the live. I've got the Treylon Burks GIF going. Do me a favor. Go like and retweet that. My list. Scroll down here and find it. How the divisions would probably be, more than likely, and this is obviously not certain, how I think they would end up splitting. In the West, we'll start with the East. This would be the biggest shock for the SEC East. Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Oh, by the way, Hudson Henry, I don't know if you guys saw this. He got a partnership with Arkansas Biomechanics and Rehabilitation. He tweeted, excited to announce that I am partnering with Arkansas Biomechanics and Rehabilitation. As an athlete, I know the importance of keeping your body as healthy as possible. In all aspects at ABR, they provide a wide variety of services to make you the best you possible. And then he includes the tweet at Arkansas Biomechanics in Rehabilitation. They service transformers there, apparently. I'm kidding. So, anyways, there's that. By the way, that's welcome to welcome to college football Twitter now. When you follow these players, you're also going to get more ads. Okay, let me pull up my my list here. I'll share my screen. There we go. All right. That's it right there. Okay. There's the East. That's the East right here. And then the West, obviously Arkansas, A&M, LSU, Missouri, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, the Land Shark Rebel Bears, Oklahoma, and Texas. Everyone loves steaks. So there you go. That's my list. That's what I have. So that's what I think it could end up looking like. So you basically trade out. Look, Auburn is, I don't know, I kind of feel like on the level of well, Texas would have more talent, no doubt. Oklahoma would be a peg behind Bama. So does it make your schedule easier? It just depends on who your permanent SEC East fix is. Mizzou would drop. And then you'd have to also talk about, right, because if they're dropping out of the East, then you don't have them as your permanent game against an SEC East opponent. Would they end up matching you with Alabama or Auburn? Wouldn't that be something if they matched you up with Bama? And I could totally see the SEC doing that, by the way. SOBs. Oh, those SOBs! So, yeah. Holy shit, I finally caught a live show. Kelly Marie, how you doing? Let me read our Discord. We had some comments on our Discord. I wanted to read it. Oh, thank you. Who's one more 24 on our Discord? Who is that again? Someone's going to have to remind me. Let me read this really quick. This is from Crix. Now, yes. Well, I don't know if he wants me. I'm not. Those of you in Discord know what's up. Crix and I, we're boys. He says, got to drop my 2 cents in on the Texas-Oklahoma rumor. This could actually help in recruiting. If they come, it's possible neither ever contend for a title again, even with a 12-game playoff. Oklahoma winning conference championship. OU winning conference championship would be few and far until Saban leaves. Recruiting in Texas will be the same. Only difference would be if Texas starts winning. In any case, if they come or not, hurts Arkansas. Ticket sales wise, competition wise, it makes sense. People would be more apt to watching these two school plays mediocre SEC schools than the rest of the Big 12. The school this would really screw is A&M, which I'm always okay with. You bring in two more large markets revenue teams with two big fan bases, and of course he's talking about Texas and Oklahoma. People say Arkansas should have went to the Big 12. Well, they would have to have went through Texas and Oklahoma for success there. Why not do it in the SEC and make more money doing it? So my only argument there is that in the Big 12, you don't play Alabama. You don't play LSU, and every so often Auburn is, every so often they're a top 15 program, right? And even are in it for most of the season to possibly play for a big BCS bowl when that was a thing, or now in the playoff era they haven't really had that kind of success. And then you look at Ole Miss right now with Lane Kiffin. I don't know about Mississippi State. I don't think it's fair to say they're going to be as bad as what we saw last year. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Big 12 step to success is easier than it is in the SEC by far. there's a reason why Baylor, it's like Baylor makes a coaching hire who now is in the NFL. This guy turns them around like that, right? Look at Oklahoma State's success. TCU off and on. TCU's kind of been down lately, but they've also been pretty up. Texas Tech has kind of had some moments here and there, and then Oklahoma dominates the conference every year because there's not – the grind is nothing like what it is in the SEC. So I don't know if I would compare the two like that, but I see what he's saying, and I have to agree. The money's great, and it's in – like Arkansas's not going to leave the conference because of this move too. Like I've seen that argued. Like, well, we need to get out of Dodge because we just don't belong in the SEC, and now you're adding 2 more potential Bamas. I mean, I don't see Oklahoma being on that level of where Alabama has been successfully in terms of what they've done in recent. Well, I mean, throughout all their history, really. But I don't know. But that's not out of their window. It's not. I mean, this team again. You saw what they did back in the day with Switzer. You saw what they did with Stoops. And you look at them right now, I think they're probably going to be a preseason unanimous number 1 between them, Alabama, maybe Georgia. But I don't think it's that far out of reach for them to be on that level of competition. I'm not saying they're going to repeat that kind of success. But, people talk about tiers all the time. Well, what tier would you put Oklahoma in? I'm not saying, again, that if they come in next year, let's say 2022, Texas and Oklahoma join the conference, all of a sudden they're Alabama level. I'm not saying that at all. But it's going to be hard. That's going to be tough, right? And we don't know that Alabama gets snapped over into the East. It would make sense geographically. It makes sense. We don't know that happens, though. Food for thought, how long would Lincoln Riley survive in the SEC? Oh, I've got Subway waiting on me, by the way. That's why I'm drinking out of a Subway cup. Thomas Nunley with the super chat. Would it be, Ty? Texas, no. Let those belly-aching whiners stay where they are at run the political head of the big whatever, OU and OSU, let them in. Yeah, well, you'd have to take 2, right, to even things out. And he's saying bring in Oklahoma State. Okay, all right, I'd take that. I kind of like Alex's point, whose comment that I read. Anything to screw over A&M. I love that idea. Mr. Runner says, I say no more expansion. There would be no point in having conferences if each conference had 20 teams and only a third of those teams are on your schedule. That's a good point, too. Is that the path that college football is on? Is that the path? We're just going to have you already have the nickname Power 5 conferences, right? And then, of course, you have Notre Dame floating around along with some other independents. BYU is independent. For some reason, I did not know that. I was looking at a preseason magazine. I was looking for BYU because a buddy of mine helped me download and update the recent college football revamped. If you don't have that, by the way, on NCAA 14, if you're able to get your hands on a copy of NCAA 14, download Revamped. I had to have help. My boy Duke helped me out with that. But I was looking to fill out BYU's roster, and I was like, wait, according to this preseason magazine, they're an independent. I didn't know that. Why did I think they were in the Mountain West or something? Yeah, is that where we're headed? Where you don't have Power 5 anymore, you have Power 4. Eventually you have Power 3. Then you have Power 2, because there's really only 2 conferences, and there's, they each have, 30 teams. Follow the money. That's what they always say. And we know college football, especially the change of the game with the grad transfer, the transfer portal, the NIL, and now we knew this was coming. We knew all this stuff was coming. It was only a matter of time. And here we are. But that's a good question, Kelly, about Lincoln Riley. Kelly Marie, who is my first and only moderator. Would Big 12 replace the 2 teams? Which teams would be in that discussion? Houston, SMU. I don't. It just depends on if they can absorb the blow, right? If they can absorb. I mean, you're talking about 2 monster in terms of revenue and relevancy. I don't know. I don't know what they do. I think they end up disbanding. Mr. T-Dub says, time for Arkansas to go independent. We had a discussion about that. I just don't think I don't think they would ever do it, and I don't know that fans would actually support it. Even if we sat down and had the discussion, had the debate, I don't know that fans would be for it, just simply because of that revenue that you miss out on, conference revenue. So I don't know. Beg Nebraska to come back. Nebraska's not super thrilled with the Big Ten, are they? Why would Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and A&M vote for more dogs in, big dogs in? Well, what kind of benefit would Alabama get? So Alabama, you got to imagine the Alabama and Georgia probably see this as an opportunity because more than likely they're not playing Oklahoma and Texas every single year, right? So what benefit do they get out of it? Well, adding Oklahoma and Texas is only going to grow the conference's net worth, its value. TV contracts are going to get renegotiated, and it's just going to get – the pot's going to get even bigger. And the buyout before COVID – or not buyout, excuse me. The payout before COVID with these TV deals was something like just south of $50 million, like 40 – what was it, $45 million. It only grows if you add those two teams in. So to teams like Alabama and Georgia, even though now that means Georgia's got to play Alabama every year, you know, it's going to be a domino effect, right? And maybe Alabama does get Texas every year. Maybe that's their cross-permanent game, like Arkansas, Missouri, or back when it was Arkansas and South Carolina. Who would you guys want? Because if, let's say that conference realignment does happen, and they do put Mizzou in the West, which to me makes the most sense, who would you want as that SEC East permanent opponent? Listen, I love that the matchup with South Carolina every year. I loved it. I thought that was fun. There were some great games. You go back to Darren McFadden and his, well, you know, the game that burned Steve Spurrier so much that he wouldn't vote for McFadden. Was it All-American or was it the Heisman list that he left him off of? I think it was the Heisman list. Gotta go, guys. Mom just texted and said my girl. Oh, okay. Hey, Kelly, I'll get back. Well, she's probably already gone, but I'll get back with you later. Hope all's well, Kelly. Thank you for stopping by. Flying Blind says, I wonder how adding Texas and Oklahoma will also affect basketball and baseball. SEC now become the premier basketball conference. Unless you're bringing Kansas. I mean, Oklahoma State's usually up there, right? Oklahoma State every now and then is kind of up there. I mean, they've had some really good years, even though they were caught cheating. So JR says he wants Vandy. Dwight says he wants Tennessee. King Robert says he wants Tennessee. Anthony White says South Carolina or Kentucky. And again, this is about the SEC East permanent opponent for Arkansas. So South Carolina or Kentucky for Anthony White. Thomas Nunley says Florida or Georgia. Wow, Thomas is punching up. He wants to go after a big boy. Muss would be good with it, probably. Muss would be good with it. What are the chances SEC drops Vandy? I doubt it. Last team they dropped, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was Georgia Tech. And that was like back in the 1950s, 1940s. I want to see Texas and A&M renew that rivalry. I mean, okay, but I'm more interested in Arkansas and Texas, if I'm being real. All right. Okay. Well, quite a bit of – so several Tennessee votes, Florida. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Tennessee. Them or Tulane. Yeah, Tulane was in the SEC, weren't they? Yeah. They were one of the – yeah, I think that's right. Tulane was in the conference. See, I'm going to have to Google that. I'm pretty sure I've read that before. Tulane was in the SEC for a really short while. Vandy is a big market and is a top baseball. Yeah, I mean, that's true, AJ, but let's be real. Baseball does not drive up a lot of overall value. I mean, it just doesn't. Nothing like basketball and football. It does some, so I see the argument there. Tennessee is a great Eastern Division rival. Yeah. I'm going to have to Google Tulane in the SEC when we're done here. I'm pretty sure that's right. Pretty sure they were. Georgia Tech was too. They were like one of the founding members. of the SEC, if I remember right. Let me check my notes here. And are we going to call it a show? Oh, also, we talked about Kirk Bowles, what he said on Twitter about Mizzou and A&M voting to block or possibly voting to block Oklahoma and Texas. Greg Sankey, last I had heard, had no comment on the matter so far. That was the last I read, so we'll see how that goes. Vandy, also a charter member. Yeah. All right. I do appreciate you guys. Super chat. You guys are rock stars. I appreciate that very much. All you guys in the chat. Thank you. Remember to like the video. Get those. Smack the likes. Put a beat down. Stone cold stun that like button. Pile drive. That sounded bad. Don't pile drive. Smash the like, subscribe, check out all the links. If you guys want to join the PTN Patreon page, if you want to be a member of that, it's a minimum of $4 a month. Goes towards helping out the channel. Again, appreciate each and every one of you. And so this will probably be the one show this week. I'm supposed to do an interview with Mark Rogers, voice of college football television, or voice of college football TV. So I'm going to do the interview on Friday. I'm sure he'll have that video up either that weekend or the next week. So be on the lookout for that. We're gonna break down the Arkansas Razorback 2021 depth chart. We're going to take a look pre-fall camp, what Arkansas football looks like going into the season. And I'm putting the pieces together, baby, full time. I still haven't. We're pieces are coming together. I've got a date, I think, pretty much figured out when the show's going to start, how many shows a week we're going to do. Really excited about the future here. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. This season's going to be fun. Football should be better. Basketball's going to be insane. I can't wait. You're talking about possible preseason top 12, top 10, maybe even top 8. They still got a spot left to fill on that roster. They got a spot left. Ronnie Brewer added on, by the way. For those of you, I'm sorry, I did not highlight this, but Eric Musselman added former Razorback standout and former NBA player Ronnie Brewer, along with another former alum, John Blake, who's a Springdale native, actually, to his staff. The university announced Tuesday afternoon Brewer will serve as the recruiting coordinator, and Blake is going to be the assistant director for the basketball administration. Of course, this is following the departures of David Patrick, Corey Williams, and Earl Boykins. So just a heads up on that. I think that's huge for recruiting NWA, by the way. Brewer, who's a fellow Fayetteville Bulldog alum, what was he, a grade ahead of me? I think he was 01, wasn't he? I graduated in 02. I think he was 01. But anyways, he's back in Fayetteville. He's back on the staffs. He's going to be a Razorback again. That's exciting. Excited for Ronnie Brewer. That's big time. I think that's going to be a huge boost to local recruiting. I can't tell you. And NWA can spit out some talent. There's no doubt about that. So, and I think it's going to help too, just all over the state. He's a name throughout the state of Arkansas, so that's a big one. So, all right. Again, I will see you guys more than likely next week. Hopefully, we have some pre-camp, some more news, some recruiting news. I'm keeping my ear to the ground on some football recruiting news. There's supposed to be something basketball related here in the next few days. As far as maybe it was football that I read. Football, there might be some recruiting news. Maybe it's this linebacker Crooks that we've been waiting on. I don't know. Hopefully we'll have something for you next week. So until then, woo pig suey, go Hogs. I need help with NCAA 14 tie. Blood Diamond, you're going to have to Google it, brother. I had to have a friend of mine help me. Once you figure it out, you'll love it. The uniforms, they're updated. It's just nasty how awesome it is. Good luck to you, Blood Diamond. Good luck. Woo pig. I'll see you guys next week.